The woman was screaming, pointing at me, calling me a thief in front of her neighbors. And in that moment, I realized something. People like her don't see workers as human. If you've ever been humiliated for doing your job, hit like, subscribe, and listen carefully, because this isn't just a revenge story. It's about what happens when respect dies. I deliver mail for a living. Not just letters. Not just packages. I deliver people's lives. Bills that decide futures. Letters that end marriages. Documents that make or break families. But nobody thinks about that. To most people, I'm invisible. I wake up before sunrise. My hands smell like paper and metal. My knees ache before noon. And I still show up. Because that's what working class people do. The day everything changed. It was July. Heat clinging to my skin like punishment. I was working my day off, already exhausted, covering a route that wasn't mine. Rich neighborhood. The kind where lawns look fake. And smiles are even faker. Old houses. Milk chutes. Backyard mailboxes. So when I walked into another backyard looking for a chute, I didn't think twice. Until I heard shouting. First humiliation. Hey. I turned. A woman running toward me like I'd set her house on fire. Her eyes scanned me like I was filth. What were you doing back there? She demanded. I explained. She didn't listen. She accused. Robbery. Peeping. Drugs. Each word landed heavier than the last. People started watching. Neighbors. Windows opened. And suddenly, I wasn't a mailman anymore. I was a suspect. Internal break. My chest tightened. My jaw locked. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because if I didn't laugh, I might have screamed. When she demanded my name, something inside me hardened. I don't give my name to strangers. Her face twisted. She screamed she'd call the police. And I drove away. But the damage. That followed me home. That night, I couldn't sleep. Because the worst part wasn't the accusation. It was realizing. She'd already decided who I was. The moment she saw me. And that thought stayed with me, far longer than it should have. Part 2. She accused me in public. But the worst part. She walked away. And I was the one left carrying it. When people imagine public humiliation, they think it ends when the shouting stops. It doesn't. It follows you. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, still in my work clothes. The room was quiet, too quiet, but my head was loud. Her voice replayed over and over. Why were you in my backyard? I know what you were really doing. I'm calling the police. I scrubbed my hands like I could wash the accusation off my skin. But you can't wash away being seen as something you're not. The next day at work, nothing looked different. Same trucks. Same scanners. Same piles of mail. But I was different. Every time a customer looked at me for half a second too long, my chest tightened. Do they think I'm suspicious too? Do they see a worker, or a threat? That's the part people don't talk about. False accusations don't just threaten your job. They poison how you see yourself in the world. A few days later, I learned more details from my supervisor. The husband hadn't just complained. He'd demanded. Demanded my termination. Demanded my personal information. Demanded consequences. He spoke calmly, apparently. Controlled. Measured. That made it worse. Because shouting is emotional. But calm accusations? Those are calculated. That's how powerful people hurt you, politely. They're like that with everyone. I mentioned the incident to a coworker, the regular carrier for that route. She didn't even look surprised. Oh. Them, she said, rolling her eyes. Worst people on the route. Always watching. Always accusing. Always complaining. That sentence did something to me. Because suddenly, it wasn't just personal. It was a pattern. And patterns mean intention. I started thinking about how easily it could have gone wrong. If my manager hadn't laughed it off. If policy had been stricter. If the police had shown up. One wrong detail. One bad day. My career could have ended in that driveway. And for what? Walking where the job required me to walk. The power imbalance. That's when the anger really arrived. Not explosive anger. The quiet kind. The kind that sits behind your eyes and changes how you breathe. They had money, time, influence. I had a uniform. And suddenly, that uniform felt like a target. For months, I avoided that street. I swapped routes, took different assignments, chose inconvenience over confrontation. But avoiding something doesn't erase it. It just gives it room to grow. Every time I passed nearby, my hands tightened on the steering wheel. I told myself I was being mature, professional. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was waiting. I didn't know yet. I just knew something inside me hadn't settled. Because when someone tries to ruin your life and faces no consequences, your mind starts asking dangerous questions. What would justice even look like? Would they ever understand what they did? Or do people like that only learn when it happens to them? Months later, I checked my assignment sheet. Same route. Same street. Same address. My stomach dropped. I sat in the truck longer than usual before starting. Breathing. Thinking. Telling myself I was overreacting. But my body didn't listen. Because trauma doesn't ask permission. As I drove closer, memories flooded back. Her voice. Her face. The neighbors watching. And then, something unexpected. Calm. Not fear. Not rage. Just clarity. I wasn't angry anymore. I was resolved. I parked the truck. Stepped out. And realized something important. This wasn't about revenge. It was about taking back control. And once that thought entered my mind, there was no going back. There's a moment when anger dies. And something colder takes its place. The truck door closes. I closed the door between the cab and the cargo area. That sound, the dull thud, felt final. Like sealing a room where something ugly was about to happen. I stood there for a second longer than necessary, staring at the metal wall. Breathing slow. Controlled. This wasn't rage. Rage is loud. This was deliberate. As I sorted the mail, my mind replayed everything. The way she ran toward me. The way her voice rose, sharp, accusing. The way neighbors peeked through curtains. No evidence. No questions. Just certainty. The kind of certainty that ruins lives. And the worst part? She walked away clean. Every envelope felt heavier than it should have. Bills. Magazines. Official-looking letters. Their name printed neatly on every single one. Ink on paper. Power in disguise. They trusted this system. They trusted me. And once, I had trusted them to treat me like a human being. I paused. Hands still. And asked myself something uncomfortable. If someone tries to destroy you, do they still deserve your respect? Nobody ever prepares you for that question. Because once you ask it, you can't unask it. I knew exactly where the line was. I knew what I should do. Deliver the mail. Leave. Be professional. That's the version of the story that keeps you safe. But safety had already been taken from me. By an accusation. By a phone call. By people who knew they'd never face consequences. My heart wasn't racing. That's what scared me. My hands didn't shake. My thoughts weren't scattered. I felt steady. Like my body had already chosen. And my mind was just catching up. People think power comes from yelling. From threats. From dominance. They're wrong. Real power is quiet. It's knowing someone will never realize when it was taken from them. I remember thinking, this is petty. This is childish. This is beneath me. And then another thought followed immediately after. So was accusing me of being a criminal. And that thought won. They didn't just insult me. They redefined me. In their story, I wasn't a worker. I wasn't a person. I was a threat. And once someone assigns you that role, they sleep fine at night. I looked at the mail one more time. All of it. Every envelope, every stamp, every harmless piece of paper. And I realized something darkly ironic. This was the safest revenge possible. No witnesses. No proof. No confrontation. Just imbalance corrected. I won't pretend it was noble. It wasn't. It was crude. It was human. It was driven by a need to reclaim dignity in the only way that felt available. No one got hurt. No law was broken. But something symbolic was crossed. And I knew it. When it was done, I stood there, waiting for something. Guilt. Relief. Triumph. What I felt instead was emptiness. Not regret. Just silence. Like closing a book you shouldn't have finished. I walked up to their house. Front door. Mail slot. Same door she accused me of casing. Same house she claimed I wanted to rob. I slid the mail through. Slowly. Deliberately. And walked away. I didn't look back. Not because I was scared. But because I didn't care anymore. That's how you know something inside you changed. That night, lying in bed, the questions came back. Did that fix anything? Did they learn a lesson? Or did I just prove something ugly about myself? Revenge isn't fireworks. It's quiet. And quiet leaves room for doubt. Here's the truth most revenge stories won't tell you. It didn't make me feel powerful. It made me feel even. And that's dangerous. Because once you taste even, you stop aiming higher. A few days later, something unexpected happened. No police. No complaints. Nothing. And that silence. It started to feel worse than punishment. Because when nobody reacts, you're left alone with what you did. The revenge did not begin with violence. It began with patience. Weeks after the first incident, the man everyone thought was defeated was watching. From the shadows of routine life, he studied patterns. Work schedules. Habits. Weaknesses no one else noticed. The enemy laughed publicly. Privately, cracks were forming. Bills started rising. Relationships grew tense. Sleep became shallow. The target didn't know why life felt wrong, only that it did. Every move was invisible. Every consequence felt like bad luck. The narrator lowers. The most dangerous revenge is the one the victim doesn't even recognize as revenge. He still believed he was in control. That belief would cost him everything. Reality finally begins to fight back. What started as small losses becomes total collapse. Career ruined. Reputation destroyed. Past sins exposed one by one. People who once admired him now whisper his name with disgust. The protagonist never shows his face. He doesn't need to. Every failure feels self-inflicted to the enemy. Every loss feels deserved. The narrator hits hard. Revenge is not about destroying the body. It is about dismantling the identity. Enemy tries to retaliate. Fails miserably. Makes fatal mistakes under pressure. Near the end, he realizes too late who is behind everything. But there is no proof. No confrontation. No closure. For the first time, fear knew his name. There is no dramatic showdown. No shouting. No begging. No heroes. Just consequences. The enemy's world shrinks. Alone. Forgotten. Broken. The protagonist watches one last time, not with anger, but emptiness. The revenge is complete. But it didn't bring peace. Final monologue. Revenge does not heal you. It only proves how deep the wound was. Final scene. Life moves on. Names are forgotten. Silence replaces rage. Last line for the entire series. And that was the price of crossing a man who chose patience over mercy.